Greetings, Star Wars and unboxing fans. What we're doing on the road, sorry, things slid, but you can still see me. You get to see a lovely view of my car. Welcome to another episode of Darth Tuba's On the Road unboxing show. I'm your host, Darth Tuba. And where are we on the road to? We are on the road to Collectorfest, which is a toy show happening in Wayne, New Jersey. I cannot remember if I have been to this, nor can I remember if I have actually documented this on a show, on an episode. Sorry, I'm just going to try to read it. See, it'll probably slide back in a second, but I can't remember if I've been in there or not. Wayne is a little bit of a drive from my home. Not too much, just a little. I do have an errand I have to run first, so but before we start getting on the road to there, I did want to just, present to you just a quick, morning drive thoughts as we head out. My collecting is always in a state of flux, a state of change. I feel like more recently I've been kind of revisiting my love of the vintage, meaning the real vintage. I don't like to say real vintage, like as in the vintage collection isn't vintage. No, I mean the actual definition of vintage, meaning really released toys and games and things that were released in the 70s and 80s. I've been able to manifest quite a big collection of the items, the most mass-produced items, and a few of the rarer ones, simply because I grew up in the 80s. So I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so this is when I was collecting, and I just never really got rid of any of that. I think the only thing I ever got rid of, I'm kind of regretting it a little bit, were the puzzles. I had a whole bunch of the old puzzles that came out in 77, and I didn't get, I got rid of them because I'm really not a puzzle collector, but I started thinking recently, like, God, I should not have gotten rid of them, because the puzzles were among the first items, the first things released for Star Wars. If you want to be a collector and find those very first rare 1977, I guess December of 77 released items, you can't find any toys unless you're finding a toy that was created by Kenner for another property that they slapped a Star Wars label on, like the $6 Million Man headset, that kind of thing. It was like I think Canada had like a utility belt that had like a gun and a different stuff, but none of it was really Star Wars themed. So none of that. I mean, of all the rare items, I never got any of those. But what I did get was I got the puzzles. That was something. Puzzles, coloring books, Dippin' Dots. I don't know if anybody remembered. Not Dippin' Dots, Dip Dots. Dippin' Dots are the ice cream. Dip Dots, I think, is what it was called, where you would get this coloring book, and it had little paints like that were dried, like watercolor paints, and then you would just, and a little brush that came with the book, and then you would take the brush and you would dip it with some water, you dip it into the dots, and that would give you color, and then you could paint the books. They really weren't that great because, let's face it, you're putting water on paper isn't gonna end well. Eventually everything got soaked, and it was just really weird. But still, it was Star Wars, and that was something they were able to create right away, in the early stages, before they could get the action figures and the toys, vehicles, play sets, what have you, created. That really didn't come out until 1978. So, I'm sorry that I didn't have much of a collection. So, when I go out to toy shows and on the hunt, places, I do kind of look for things like that, maybe some old 70s and 80s early advertising, that kind of thing. Beyond that, I'm not really looking for anything new. But we'll see. I'm also been into people are doing any custom items. We can look and see what they're. Most of the items that I see people selling in terms of newer, VC collection, or I'm not collecting Black Series anymore. There's always a ton of Black Series, and there's always a ton of Pop Funko, or Funko Pop. Sorry. Funko Pop items, and that's great, and I love that they have that. And if I see something of a character I really like that I haven't seen before, I might consider that. But beyond that, no, I'm not really into that anymore. To further the collection. We'll see. So I'm really looking into the more vintage style, unless I see somebody selling a loose, Hot Toys or Sideshow figure for very little, for a reasonable price, or a damaged vintage carded figure that I could get for a reasonable price. Beyond that, that's really, and I'm just more looking to see what's out there right now. However, there's another reason to go right now, and that is one of the Kenner toy designers, Jim Swearingen, who, if you've ever watched some of these, any collectors out there, if you've ever watched Plastic Galaxy or The Toys That Made Us on Netflix, there's been some pretty interesting documentaries all about Kenner and making the toys. Some made, but kind of professionally, like the two I just mentioned, and some just people doing their own kind of their own take on it. Well, Jim Swearingen is going to be at this event, so I'm kind of excited to maybe meet him and get an autograph. I know that seems I'm really geeking out here, but you got to remember, this is a guy who, in my mind, was very much responsible for an excessive amount of my childhood. He designed a lot of things out there. He designed a lot of toys. That he had his hand in a lot of toys, not just Star Wars, but other properties as well. So, he's a person I would love to meet. If if he has. Sometimes I think some of these guys are, might be selling, individual items that they've made up. Maybe some of them wrote like, unofficial books and stuff. I definitely want to support that, because this guy is really, he's one of these unsung heroes of Star Wars, and one of the unsung people that is responsible for, him along with the whole team of designers, designing our childhood, those people my age especially. So, and those X-Wing models and TIE Fighter models and things that they've made into toys were repurposed for, back in the 90s, and then they kept kind of going through resurgence every couple of years. So who knows? We'll see. All right. So as I said, got some other stuff I got to take care of, and then I will be on my way to Wayne, New Jersey for Collectorfest. Okay, so that was a small event. Not too crowded. I like it that way. I was actually really pleased with it. There were plenty of dealers. Well, you know, for a smaller show, there were plenty of dealers. But if you watch my video of the one that happens in Woodbridge, New Jersey, while that's much closer to where I live, that one is a little bit crazy. There's just not a lot of people. I almost feel like they oversell dealer space, and so as a result, there isn't a lot of room to move around, so it's a little bit rough. This place, if you looked on the video, you see that there's a lot of space. Not as many dealers, but pretty decent and different types, so it was kind of cool. So in terms of what I picked up, I have to say that it was an unusual day. I guess I will say this. There was one dealer there that was kind of partially a dealer and partially a kind of a creative. So he actually had a few things. Now this is I don't know if this is his original design. I don't think so. I think it's just something he kind of marketed. But I actually picked up two. And this is the Guinness. I've seen a few of these, the Obi-Wan Kenobi Guinness glasses. I love that. I think that's fantastic. I'm not a huge drinker, I'm not, but I figured if I ever do decide to have a beer from once in a while, I'm going to put it in my Alec Guinness glass. I don't know if I'll actually drink actual Guinness with it because I'm not a big fan of that drink. But anyway, what else we got? So that same person had this. This is probably my big find for the day. This is an R2-D2 from the Droid Factory. This is the Jumbo R2-D2. I'm not going to unbox it right here, but if you look on the back, you can see that it's for those in the know, they came out with two different types of R2-D2s in the Star Wars 78, 9, 80 in that era before Empire came back. They had the regular R2-D2, which is just a two-legged regular R2. And then they had this one, which looked exactly like that, but they created a little thing for a third leg. And they put this is one you pieced together with the Droid Factory. If you look back on some more recent videos, I actually purchased a newer Droid Factory and, kind of took the pieces and combined them with my old Droid Factory. R2 was a big part of that. So it was the first time we had like a three-legged R2, right? It's a little bit wonky. His leg is like really, really, really like darts out a lot. But this is a Gentle Giants. This is like a New York Comic-Con exclusive. So I picked that up. I liked having that, although I do laugh that I may end up selling off some of this eventually. So I might actually keep this one in the box for now. We'll see. He had some pins. Let's see if I can find that I liked. I think he designed these. This one is fun. It's the police department, but Skywalker Ranch, which I thought was kind of cool. And then there's like a set of wings. But it's if you look closely, it looks like they're like airline wings, but it's actually a TIE fighter. So I thought those were cool. And he included a shirt. Again, another Obi-Wan, Club Obi-Wan shirt. So that's cool. And the last couple of things here were actually autographs. So there were 3 celebrities. The first one I had a nice conversation with. Is a stunt actor, is playing the Tusken Raider here from Boba Fett. His name is Dimitri Karas. He was great. He's been in in all of the new Star Wars TV series. He's been everywhere. He's been Stormtroopers and Aliens and every kind of character. He was a Celestian from Ahsoka. He's been in like the Death Troopers in Ahsoka. He's been everywhere. So we had a great conversation. Great guy. I wish him luck. He's trying to get into what they're kind of on hold right now with getting ready to do the Filoni movie and some other movies. So we'll see. And then this is the one I was real excited for. This was the Jim Swearingen first Star Wars toy designer, and he did a lot of prototypes for all the things that you see there. And he actually kept going. He was doing this beyond. He worked there for 40 years, so he probably had his hand not only in the original vintage stuff, but also into the stuff from in the 90s before retiring. So, and then lastly was this guy. Now this is an iconic photo. Okay, Stephen. I'm forgetting his last name. Cantarelli, I forget. Cantarelli. He was a Gamorrean guard, and I had a nice conversation with him as well. You know, it's nice to talk to these guys. I mean, you pay them for the autograph. I don't have a problem with this. And I like personalizing it. There's a lot of argument over whether you personalize autographs, whether you don't. I like to personalize them because I like them to know, the actor, to know that I'm not just investing. I'm not just asking for a hand, you know, for money, you know, like I'm just, when you just do an autograph, it's like you're just getting it to resell it. You know what I mean? Which I don't like. You know, I don't like doing that. I feel like you're capitalizing on a person. You know, I don't really want to do that. So I really like just having the collection of autographs from a lot of the people who were acting in the movies. And the thing is that when I go to Celebration, I found a lot of actors that were in the UK or in Australia or in, you know, somewhere else in England, you know, shooting it. So rarely do I ever come across people that are actually in this country. So this, of course, you can tell by the scene that this is a setup from the Jabba sail barge, which was shot in Arizona. And this is an iconic photo. It's like a still image that was all over the place in the early years of when Return of the Jedi came out. And even after that, you just saw this imagery a lot. So when he had this image, I thought, oh, that's the one I want. And I mean, he had some great imagery. He also, I bought another thing from him that somebody made. I don't know if he made it or someone else made it, but it was a enamel pin. Oh yeah, Constantino, excuse me. I want to make sure I get his name right. Stephen Constantino. And that's a great photo or cartoon of him without his mask on, you know. And I love this because it looks like anything that like resembles that vintage look, I love. So it's a really cool thing. I think I might actually figure out a way to maybe mount these two together or at least display them together. That's really cool. So that was our trip, and you know, honestly, I'm good with it. I was not disappointed. I like having the smaller events. Like I was talking to Jim Swearingen, and he was talking about the ICCC event, which happens in Tennessee, I think. And I'm excited to maybe consider going, but the problem is that, you know, well, it's hard for me to take time off in the summer to do that, or in the fall rather, when I have a busy job that keeps me busy, especially in the fall. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to. But even if I did, I would be concerned because I spent a decent amount of money in what amounted to essentially 45 minutes. So imagine if I had a whole weekend. I've been to Celebration. Yeah, it happens. You know, I buy things and then you get into the moment and you're like, you know, but anyway, so we'll see. I may or may not go. I was kind of hoping to meet Jim Swearingen when I went down, if I went down in the fall, and I just met him, and he's a great guy, and I think I might be good, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get there. I mean, for the channel, I might decide I still want to make the trip, so we'll see. Anyway, so all in all, I was really happy with it. It's a little far for me. It's about an hour drive. So, but again, an hour drive, it's a one-day event, so it's not huge. I like that it's not huge. It felt definitely more, it was more elbow room, and it was just I like the vibe. I did. So I'm hoping to maybe try to get up here a little more often. So that'll do it for this episode of Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing Show on the road. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Red 5 for supporting the channel. Check out Red 5 and all the other networks, and all the other channels and stations and things that they have, both podcasts and YouTube channels. Check me out on Instagram and X at Darth Tuba. Darth Tuba Star Wars Unboxing page on Facebook. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, may the Force and the toys be with you. This is the way.